Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Superhero Rewind Commentary Project. It's me, Captain Logan, and joining me, as always, is my sidekick, Austin, TheDayGhost. And today, Austin and I are going to watch and discuss Punisher Warzone to celebrate the life and career of Ray Stevenson, who sadly passed away recently, so rest in peace to him. And this is a movie that I have not seen since Marvel Mania, Austin, and I don't even remember doing that. I sat down to watch this week in preparation for this review, and it was like seeing it for the first time. I remembered exactly like two things. I remembered the spinning with the guns and the on the ceiling fan, and I remembered how Jigsaw gets his face all messed up. And I guess three things.
Spinning.
What's that?
It's a thing, like both things
that were spinning. Well, I've always been a game show fan, so that tracks. But also, I remember the line that was in all the trailers that's in this movie, where he's like, "The Punisher's not the only one who can take the law into his own hands."
Which also makes sense because the trailers also had the chandelier spinning in like all of them. Like that was a big thing they sold this movie on.
Yep. And I still have no idea what is. Well, and I said ceiling fan. No, it's the chandelier. Yeah, because I don't even know what's propelling him when he's doing that. It looks like he's just like telekinetically spinning the.
But sheer force of will.
Oh, okay, sure, that makes sense. It's like he's just that strong in the knees. It's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Austin suggested that we do this, so he technically picked tonight's movie because of Ray Stevenson's passing. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll reveal the movie that we're doing next time. But I will just say it's also a smaller and not like beloved movie or anything, so nobody get like too super excited. But it is a requested film, and it will be a lot of fun for us to watch. I am sure we'll do that in actually I was going to say a couple weeks, maybe 3 weeks, because I'm going to be on vacation soon. But anyway, make sure to get your DVD, Blu-ray, however you're going to watch this movie. I don't know where this is streaming right now, if anywhere, Austin, because I watched it on disc. Did you happen to look at it?
I took this as a opportunity to upgrade, so I got the 4K of this yesterday.
Yeah, I really want the Steelbook that just came out, and I meant to order that for this, and I didn't get to it in time. So hopefully I can get that soon. And there are some I don't know if they're new special features or old ones from an earlier Blu-ray, but there's some special features on that I don't have with my disc. So I'm as prepared as I could be with the resources at my disposal. I was able to watch a little bit in the way of special features, but I didn't get to listen to a director commentary, and I wish I had, because this director is really interesting, and it sounds like she had a really difficult time making this movie. And yes, I said she. You wouldn't think that this movie was made by a female director, but it is, and one of the earliest examples of a superhero movie made by a woman.
It's the first one that comes to mind. There's probably something before it. I'm sure that I'm forgetting.
Nothing comes to me, though.
Comes to mind, at least for major things,
especially like anything mainstream.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is also, now I just realized, the only Marvel film I own on 4K.
Oh, really? That's really funny. Noah put it in $2 super chat and calls us you Krispy Kreme individuals.
You Krispy Kreme individuals.
We'll get to that scene. That's probably the most memorable line from this movie, or at least it's up there. It's in the top 3.
Yeah, there's a handful that always stick out to me, and that's one of them.
It's definitely a one-liner kind of movie. Okay, so make sure that you're at timestamp 0. Get ready to press play when I say now. I've got a timer there on the screen, and if you lose your place, you'll be able to line back up with us. Senior Stick says that's gong worthy. Sure, I'll do gongs for super chats. Why not? Anyway, I'm gonna wake up everybody upstairs. Okay, is everybody ready? Is everybody ready? My goodness, I'm gonna have to wake up at some point here. We're gonna watch Punisher Warzone, and we're gonna talk about it.
You really are a Krispy Kreme individual.
I could go for that right now.
I don't think we have them in Canada. I've never seen a Krispy Kreme, but I don't know. I don't know that for sure.
Oh, we've got those around here. Yeah, that's where the Zeo crystal is buried.
Yeah, well, it's a special place.
Exactly. Yeah, that character doesn't realize how special it is when he says that. Okay, everybody get ready to press play. We're just about to do it. Here we go. Everybody please press play right now. Daniver says that this movie was basically only made so Lionsgate could hold on to the rights. Its failures meant they lost it. I don't know how true that is really, or maybe that's why they finally rushed out something, but initially a sequel was in development after the first movie because it did so well on home video. And that ultimately turned into this, and that's only because Thomas Jane left when they couldn't give him a script that he liked. He thought he was going to be in a real compromised piece, and he wasn't happy with the material that they were throwing his way, so he finally threw his hands in the air and said, I mean, it's not worth my time what you guys are making.
Well, he at least got
he had like bulked up real hard for the role when he thought it was going to shoot like a year before that.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
He at least got a sequel in the video game, which is really good. I don't know if you ever played that.
I didn't, and I didn't realize that was a sequel to that movie.
Yeah, Jigsaw is the main villain of that, too. It's written by Ennis.
So is there anything... I guess we'll get this kind of thing, this question out of the way right away.
Yeah.
Is there anything in this movie that like directly straight up contradicts the first movie just beyond how stylistically different it is?
The main thing is his family. He only has one kid in that first movie, and here he's got both of them, and it's the traditional Punisher origin, which the first movie's not.
It's been so long since I've seen either of these, but especially that first one, that I just couldn't remember.
One of the big things, though, between both of these, like, this isn't a connection thing, but they both have really good intros.
Yes. That's true.
It's a great opening credits sequence, and I love the Marvel Knights logo at the beginning.
I do too, and yeah, if I didn't put the first opening sequence in my top 10 rewind from years ago, it was a runner-up, or it got real close, but I think it might have actually been like 9 or 10.
So that one is, and I think this is a runner-up.
Yeah, I mean, I like this one a lot too, and I would go as far to say that the comic book panel thing that we're doing in these opening credits could have maybe been used to good effect throughout the movie for transitions and things. Like, when I see this, I kind of expect it to be in more of the movie than just the opening. But I don't mind this either. I mean, I'm not saying that it's, inconsistent in its presentation by not continuing this through the movie, but it's so comic booky and so stylized to try to look as much like the Ennis books as possible that I think it could have gotten away with that in a way that, in the way that maybe like that first Hulk movie sort of failed at. Like, this would have been the time to try that again and maybe do it more effectively.
Yeah, if we were ever going to do that again, this makes the most sense to do it.
And I mean, I like a lot of things about that Ang Lee Hulk movie, don't get me wrong, but that was a cool idea that doesn't quite translate as well as you want it to. So Lexi Alexander is the name of the director, and she has a comic book sounding name, and almost like a redundant sounding name too, because like in Smallville, and I think even in comics, like Lex is short for Alexander, so it sounds like her name is like Lex.
True,
Lex.
Yeah, Lex. She's Lex squared as a person.
Yes. That's great.
That's really funny. Yeah, and she didn't really get to do much outside of TV beyond this movie.
No, and apparently not for a lack of trying. She is a real outspoken advocate for female directors in Hollywood, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about this, but I feel for her. Like, she kept going out for movies that she made a lot of sense to direct, like The Fighter, and often it sounds like couldn't get meetings just because the people putting, the producers of these movies just didn't want female directors, and she's super qualified for these kind of action movies.
Yeah, this is very much a...
she comes from a stunt background.
Yeah, and she worked on Batman and Robin.
That's right.
which is funny because this also has the neon lighting that Schumacher Batman does. But what was I going to say with that? Oh yeah, so this movie's very, I don't know, like particular. Like it's an easy movie for it not to be in a person's like wheelhouse, I guess. But like it's a well-made movie. Like outside of that, like I think most people can look at it and it doesn't look bad.
No,
it's definitely a matter of taste whether you like it or not.
Yes, and that's where I'm at with it. I may have to decide with this viewing while I'm talking to you where I even land on this movie. It's a tough one for me to call, but I think it's more than competently made. And if it has tonal confusion issues, it's in the script before it's in what the movie looks at and the way it's presented. I think it's paced pretty well.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
And I think it looks better than some of the more successful movies, or at least as good. But I would go as far as to say it looks better than some of the more successful Marvel movies from this period and just before. Like, this does not have, the seams do not show like in Daredevil. It doesn't have like CG effects problems for the most part. There's a couple explosions that are dicey and like fire and stuff, but like for the most part, you know, a lot of the effects are in camera, practical stuff, and
even with the MCU, like it's a more interesting looking movie than most MCU films, because even really good MCU films sometimes have really bland visuals. But like I really like the stylized look, and I don't know if you caught it, but Marvel Studios, I think, worked on this film. They worked on this and Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance, and I feel like we would have a much more interesting MCU if both of these were roped in, where we could go to some of these more stylized places.
Yeah, because, and that's going to be the name of the game tonight. Because it's as stylized as it is, I kind of found myself halfway through on this last viewing I had thinking, this wouldn't have been the worst place to start a shared universe, at least for the street level, more gritty stuff. Like, all I wanted was Daredevil, like in this world, and I realized that with Netflix we got that, and we got that kind of street level shared universe thing, tangentially related to, but sort of apart from the MCU. But I also think that you could have made a case for this being I think there were different studios, but being roped into the Daredevil movie universe that you already had too. Like, I don't think it's too far outside of that. Again, I think it actually looks better than that movie.
Yeah, absolutely. This scene right here is very Frank Miller. Like, this is just that Batman Year One scene.
I was going to ask you,
but he's the Punisher.
Do you think
killing everyone?
Do you think the Miller character is named after Miller?
Probably, because there's quite a bit of that for naming comic book creators in this movie.
Yeah, and there's quite a bit of that in the 2000s.
We talked over is just Bendis.
Yes. So yeah, I don't really understand how exactly he's doing this, but it looks cool.
It's so cool. Yeah.
And I love that we talked over it, but that initial shot, like, that's a really cool way to introduce the Punisher, like in red, and red for rage. Colors are very important with this movie.
Yeah.
And
I also think it comes right out and says exactly what movie it is, where he pops the flare, walks up to a guy with a knife, and decapitates him in one shot. Like,
yeah,
that's instantly the movie going, yes, it's this type of movie.
Yeah, it's establishing
you're either gonna like it or you're not.
It's basically saying, if this is too much for you, if you feel like throwing up right now, leave the movie theater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Because what I like about this movie, and it's something that none of the other Punisher adaptations get, even though I like those, is that he is just straight up the Punisher here, and he's just a slasher movie villain, and he just like goes around and has really awesome kills throughout. But like, he's just Jason Voorhees with a gun.
But then it gets very interesting very quickly, where he gets more vulnerable right at the start than you would expect him to. Mm-hmm. What's weird about this as a reboot is that it feels like a sequel.
When I was thinking about
it doesn't
this
feel like a
too-
sequel to the Punisher movie we got already, but it kind of expects that you're familiar with the premise, unless, Austin, you wanted to make the argument that the premise is so simple that you don't even, that all you really need is to see the Punisher go down and murder a bunch of bad people, because we're not even given, like, the death of his family right at the start. But to open a Punisher movie that is not supposed to be a sequel to anything with, and then he kills a good guy and feels like he needs to be punished, that feels like a sequel.
Mm-hmm. See, I was thinking of Homecoming, or not just Homecoming, but MCU Spider-Man in general, and a little bit of the Batman, because like they're all reboots that just skip the origin and we jump straight in. And this
the difference
much
is
more...
this and the Batman at least talk about what happened.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
though, is that both the Batman and this both go, okay, but the origin is important, so it is still important to the character, and we talk about it, as opposed to MCU Spider-Man, which completely ignores it. So I think this
Did
film...
he just unbreak his nose? What
So
exactly is...
His nose is like knocked out of place, and he pushes it back in.
And he fixes it, okay.
It's dislocated, yeah. Yeah. These parkour guys are awesome, and the payoff for them is just the best thing in this movie.
Well, sort of. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but the main guy with the dreadlocks, who, by the way, seems like he is just right out of a Pirates of the Caribbean movie to me.
I think he's from Max, if I remember correctly.
I just mean the performance that guy is giving.
Oh yeah, 100%.
He seems like a Pirates of the Caribbean character. But I have questions about the Punisher letting him live. But we can talk about that when we get there.
Oh, he doesn't, though.
He doesn't?
No, so he makes
What did I miss?
like he makes it seem like he's going to let him live, and then he impales him on a fence.
Oh, he didn't even... Okay, I missed that that's who he... Okay, the problem is there's a scene in between, and so there's this disconnect that I had where I forgot who he was even killing. Because you see him kill so many characters through the movie, I lost track of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's that guy.
Okay, I like the kind of dramatic or comedic beat, however you want to look at it, that you could do where, like, you cut to a scene and then he drops, but to have, like, a whole talking scene in between that, I think is maybe a mistake.
Fair
that
enough.
Was lost on me. I probably wasn't the only one.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. I really like that.
Or maybe I'm not engaged enough with this material. I don't know.
It's probably more so that. I think there's a lot of really good black comedy in this movie, especially with people being killed.
This is the kind of movie that I respect a lot more than I enjoy, I think. But I have a lot of respect for this director. She comes right out in the special features and says, so... and I just wish more people would have this attitude. This is not the only way to make a movie based on a comic, but I love the distinction that she makes between adaptation and I don't know. I'm trying to think of the right word, but like some people will adaptation and translation. Like what she's doing is actually not, and we can split hairs with terminology, but it's not adaptation as close as it is to translation. Her goal, however well you think she manages it, is to take the Garth Ennis comics, at least visually, and put them on the screen. And she says, when I agreed to do this job, I took that seriously, and I went, here's the material, and now we're going to put that on screen. And a lot of people take a job, and then they decide that the job is not translation, it's like loose adaptation. And I mean, if that's what you're hired to do, if that's what a studio wants, or if you have like a real inspired idea based on a thing that's not just like the comics, like, by all means, there are some comic movies that aren't that close to source material that I love, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But I have so much respect for that attitude.
Yeah,
where it's like,
because the Punisher's in like my top 5 Marvel characters, I appreciate this movie so much, especially in relation to the other Punisher adaptations, which again I like, but they're all too afraid of this material, and this one's the only one that comes out and goes, "Yeah, it's the Punisher. Here you go."
Yeah, what was cool is I couldn't even tell how much of like the real vulgar and violent sensibilities that are here were hers, so much as just, that's what we're making. So that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah. I got the sense from the behind the scenes video I watched that she's probably into stuff like this, but who knows? It's hard to say.
Yeah, but it seems
they're
like
small little things.
For her, it's more about the martial arts and the gunplay and the military stuff and all of that. Like, I could just as easily see her directing a PG-13 superhero movie.
Yeah, no, that's true. Since she's a stunt woman, I'm sure. I mean, because I already think that John Wick is kind of the best Punisher movie, so like there's a little bit of that, right, where I'm sure she latches onto the stunt work as much as those guys do, because they come from similar backgrounds.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think she could probably make a one. I mean, she did an episode of Arrow and Supergirl.
Yeah, so, I just think it's unfortunate that she didn't get more of this kind of work. So, I also think that there is a distinct difference between something like this that is throwing back to 80s action movies and, I don't want to say like straight up grindhouse, but like, looking
there's an element of that.
Just looking at super gratuitous, like intentionally gratuitous, violent 80s movies, and you're throwing back to that versus a thing that is not self-aware and made a movie like Venom or something that feels like it came out 20 years ago but is pretending like it's so fresh and new and original. This movie knows the ways in which it is not original, and it embraces that, and the attitude of it. First of all, it feels like a movie somebody actually wanted to make, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
There's a joy to this, even though there's of course a bleakness and sometimes a somberness to it, along with the over-the-top crazy schlockiness. I think she finds an okay balance there. Although, with the material that we start with, I actually kind of wish this movie was a little bit more sober. I actually kind of wish this movie took itself more seriously, just because of the subject matter that we initially start with. I think the perfect Punisher movie would be somewhere between this and 04, where you'd have the attitude that 04 has with this kind of a story, and then just the visual stylistic nature of this movie. Like, light it like this, shoot it like this, but let your characters act and talk more like they do in the 04 movie.
Yeah, or like a mix between this and the Netflix version.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. No, I can appreciate this. That,
like, I would have loved to have seen Thomas Jane's Punisher in something this comic book looking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's the nice thing. Obviously, because it's a video game, so it's different. But since it's done by Ennis, like, it's so comic booky.
Yeah, so you feel like you've kind of seen that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's a part where you get to impale a guy on a rhino. Like, it's that type of game. Well, and the main villain in that is Jigsaw, who wears an Iron Man suit for this boss. Oh,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's super comic booky.
But yeah, when you have a movie like this that opens with, something this somber and sad, where your main character is immediately like disillusioned and asking himself if he should even keep going. It seems kind of odd. There's a juxtaposition between that and the schlockiness of your villains. Mm-hmm. But then I certainly appreciate that they're not generic, and that those actors are having a lot of fun hamming it up on screen, and that's infectious.
Yeah.
But it's kind of what I don't... But it's kind of not what I want from what we're initially given, at least story-wise.
Yeah. No, that's fair. And I do like that Punisher himself is never like that. Like, he's the straight man through the entire movie. I think that works really well.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, I have to say, I think Stevenson does a good job. I don't think I like him as well as Thomas Jane or Bernthal.
and I can't. They're so like I like all of them, so
Sure.
it's really hard for me to go. Like I feel like the Punisher is probably the best adapted character, and that every single actor I think is kind of perfect that we've had.
He certainly looks straight off the page.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
he is spectacular in the action scenes.
Mhm.
And there's these nice glimmers of humanity with him, but I feel like his performance is almost in places like a little too understated. A little too wooden in one note. And I can totally see somebody making the case that, well, he's the Punisher, he's supposed to be that way.
Mhm.
But I don't know, like I just I
You
need
just
like
need
a
a little more.
little bit more nuanced difference in what he's doing in the scenes where he is like cold and hardened and like a rock, and in the scenes where he is letting himself be more vulnerable.
Mhm.
It's not
Yeah, that's
quite
fair.
enough there for me.
Mhm. No, and I like how subtle a lot of that stuff is, but I can appreciate that. I think for me, because it's so just not that kind of movie, it's I don't know, like I'm not thinking that as much. Like Thomas Jane and Frank Bernthal, John Bernthal, they get some better material to work with for that stuff. So it's a place where I feel like Stevenson's kind of hung out to dry a little bit.
I really think Stevenson or Steve. I really think Frank Castle needs to go get himself some Formula 409 or something for the gravestone. I don't think he's gonna be. I don't think just basic elbow grease is gonna get that off.
He's the Punisher. It's sheer force of will, sir.
He's like, look, if I can make a chandelier spin by just using my mind, I can be able to clean off this tombstone.
If I can punch a man's face off, I can easily wipe this off.
Yeah, and I don't mean to take this material too seriously, because of course this is a melodrama and it's an intentional schlock piece. But the problem is when it gets when it stops everything and gets real serious, and the Punisher is actually like questioning what he's doing. I feel like the material is almost. I feel like that material is almost too good for the movie they're making, and so I sort of want it to lean more in that direction. And like I think you can have both. I do appreciate when a movie like this has some heart and some substance, and there is like certainly an internal logic to what's going on. So I don't mean that if you have a movie that is, as crazy and has impossible stuff like you just punch a man's face in like that, that it can't be about anything. There it is.
There, he said it. He said the thing.
Krispy Kreme, and one of the things. Sorry, I'm interrupting myself. I think that one of the reasons that line is so memorable is because Colin Salmon does one of the worst fake American accents from a British actor I've ever heard, and it's so distracting this entire movie. I don't know if I would have it as much if I wasn't familiar with him from other things, but speaking...
I think so, because it doesn't take me out. And I think part of it is there's so many silly accents in this movie that it just kind of fits in.
But that one's crazy, and I'm like... Salmon's a good actor, but... You need to either let him just have his accent and don't draw attention to it, or have a throwaway line about where he's originally from or something, or hire somebody with a regular American accent. I don't understand that. Like, because the other silly accents are feel like
They're
a part
intentional.
of. Sorry, what?
So they're intentional, like they're purposefully chewing scenery.
Yeah, they're intentionally cartoony, but not this. This is a guy just attempting an American accent, and he can't do it. That's Steele from the Arrowverse. I think that's his name, Walter Steele.
I can't remember. It's been so long since I've seen that first season. I really like the actor who plays Soap in this. That's another casting choice, because we have Wayne Knight, who's like perfect off the page, and this guy visually is, character-wise, not exactly, because he's more like upbeat and like happy-go-lucky, while the character in Welcome Back Frank's more like depressed. But I really like this actor as Detective Soap.
He is oddly layered, because you think you understand who this guy is until the reveal that he's actually been working with Frank Castle all along, and then you wonder if it's almost like a Clark Kent thing, like how much of his character is an intentional put upon thing where he's trying to like keep people off his trail by being bumbling, or like is he bumbling? And then by the end of the movie it seems like yeah, he's pretty much just bumbling. It's really interesting in the
He's
middle.
Like Punisher's Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, but he's really good at like seeming very genuine and slight and like a real kind of like optimistic, kindly guy, and then it turns out that he's deceiving everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I have real issues with that by the end, because I don't really like that last scene with him and Frank so much. We'll talk about that when we get there.
Okay.
Well, my big issue with it, again, getting way ahead of myself, but my big issue with it is he clearly has issues with the way the Punisher kills people, and I don't know why he's been helping him for 5 years.
I think it's because he's such a pushover. It's more that like the Punisher's like, okay, you're gonna give me this, and he's like, well, okay, fine, because that's what it is when he's locked up in the back of the police car. He's like, I've helped you with things before,
that's true.
Frank. I'm not gonna just let you go. And Frank's like, yes, you are. And
well,
he's
then,
like, okay, fine.
Yeah, like maybe I'm not being fair, because what I thought it was initially is more interesting than what it turns out to be.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I thought he was kind of playing up a character so that he could help the Punisher do what he's doing while everybody thinks that he is that he's trying to take the Punisher down. Although nobody seems especially serious about it, because if he's playing it up as incompetent, then you'd think that the police would fire him and put somebody better on the task force. But he's been there 5 years and he's never taken the Punisher down, and it's because he's working with him.
Well, I like the idea too that the police don't really care. Like, they're not really out to get the Punisher, because
that's true.
He's doing their job for them. And I like that as an idea. Yeah,
and it takes Frank killing an FBI agent and then that agent's partner going after him before anybody even tries to go after him. Like, it's not even in the police precinct. Now, a question I had for you is those cops that are giving him crap about it, Budiansky.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's just because he's a Fed, or are they trying to play it up as like a race thing or something? Like the way they're laughing at him. I couldn't tell.
Yeah, maybe there's like an element of that. I always thought it was just like a Fed thing, because it's something you hear a lot with cops.
I just couldn't help but notice, and I don't mean to be overly sensitive to this, I couldn't help but notice that there were only white people in that precinct.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, is this going to be a Who Framed Roger Rabbit situation?
Somebody's going to come back and be like, Cap, here's all the black people that were in that room.
There's 15 black people in this room.
Look, there was only one black man in Roger Rabbit that anybody found, okay?
And his name was Daffy Duck, okay?
No, it wasn't! He was an actual black man.
So do you get excited that we're in 89 territory?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I couldn't help but immediately think that, and I feel like she's doing that on purpose.
I like how it's like a reference if you're thinking about it, but it's not so in your face that it's directly parodying that scene.
He's not going mirror. And
yeah, exactly.
You see what I have to work with here. And I like that
different.
Well, and we take it further with this scene, because the Joker just laughs about it and breaks a mirror and walks up the staircase. Jigsaw frickin' kills his doctor.
Yeah, well, and he doesn't really embrace his look as much as the Joker does. Like, he tries to, but it's hard.
No, and I appreciate that comparison, because that has a lot to do with the differences in these characters. The Joker, as much as people always say with 89 that he's kind of already crazy before he gets the makeup, so it doesn't really gel with some people, but the idea is supposed to be anyway that falling into the vat of acid like makes him crazier, and as you say, he embraces what he sees now. Mm-hmm. with Jigsaw, it brings out in him something that's there already. Like, he is a vain, like, attractive man who, you know, handsome guy who is a monster underneath. And the monster is brought out, and he can't stand to see himself in the mirror. Because of that, I don't know how I feel about his, like, deciding that his name's not Billy anymore. Like, well, Billy died, call me Jigsaw. It's the same thing as the Joker, right? Like Jack is dead, you can call me the Joker. But he doesn't fully embrace that. He doesn't want to look at himself in the face. And B, he doesn't tell his brother to stop calling him Billy. Mm-hmm. So that feels like just a typical thing that is supposed to be in a villain scene like that, where, like, we're not really thinking much about it, about, like, why we're having him say that.
Well, I think he's trying to embrace it, but, like, it's hard, and every time he's reminded of how he looks, it brings him back, and he goes like, oh, you know, I hate this. Because he also doesn't refer to his brother by his villain name, Looney Bin Jim. Most of the time he calls him James.
Well, and he gets mad in this scene at his henchman for calling him Looney Bin Jim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think his brother still likes going by that name.
I don't know, does that even come up?
I'm trying to think, because I said it in
So I was really surprised to find out that Looney Bin Jim is not a comic book thing, that they made that up for this movie, because it absolutely sounds like one.
Yeah, no, he absolutely does.
I love LBJ. I wish that came back. That's pretty great. What do you think of the makeup job on him?
On Jigsaw?
Yeah.
I think it looks great.
I do too. It's very Dick Tracy. I
was so excited to see how they were gonna go from this, like with Netflix. And when he shows up and he's got like three little cuts, I was so sad because I wanted this. Like, give me actual Jigsaw.
Yeah.
No, I think he looks wonderful. I didn't know until the behind the scenes videos that, like, there's even stitching in his eye. That's crazy.
So I don't want to keep talking too much about Batman, but AMC says he's not sure if he agrees with me with the '89 Joker thing, because Joker covers up the white face with skin-colored makeup throughout the film. Yeah, but that's because he's sort of in disguise. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things in that movie that don't entirely make sense. Like, I don't know why he's in disguise in certain scenes but not in others, and then you get to the end of the movie and he's just straight up in the white makeup. Well, and even with the mimes, he's got his white makeup.
Yeah. You know what this movie has that's also from '89?
What's that?
Punisher just rocks up with Joker's giant revolver at one point.
Does he?
Yeah, he's got a revolver that's like this long. It's not as.
I guess I didn't notice it was that big.
Is
it collapsible too?
No, it's not as big as the Joker one. But every time I see it, that's all I can think of.
You've got that
comically large.
You got that bit toward the beginning where the mob boss, with the family that gets killed, calls Jim Looney Bin Jim to Jigsaw before he's Jigsaw, and that's kind of odd because it's like, you know what your brother's name was, you know, you did that just for the audience, where he's like Looney Bin Jim.
You call him James, okay? You don't call him Looney Bin Jim.
I love how over the top his Italian accent is too. That's fantastic.
I love that Jigsaw can just like snap that man's neck like that. It's so silly.
Well, you're in a world where the Punisher can punch through a man's head.
I know. I love this movie. It's so fun. We're coming up to one of my favorite jokes in this movie, where the
applesauce thing, or
no, where the two henchmen are like, "Should we bring his pills?" And Jigsaw's like, "Hey, he's doing fine," as he's eating the man.
See, I actually have a complaint about that. That seems like a setup, and maybe it's just a thing the actor did at the end of the scene, and she left it in. But when he grabs the medicine and he's like, well, what if he needs it? Like, basically saying, what if we can't control him, right? Mm-hmm. He pockets it.
Yeah.
And I really expected that to come back later, where he would try to use it or suggest that they should use it or something, and never comes back again.
I just like that as a gag. He's eating a man on the floor, and he's like, I'm gonna keep this. Although, I do quote the yummy, yummy, yummy in my tummy, tummy, tummy a lot. So, there's that. I do quote that.
I'm not sure why he took it as far as, like, to the tummy place, because at first it seems like he's quoting the guy. I'm trying to think what even is his job. What would you call that guy?
I don't know. Guy who
just the guy who works at the mental hospital.
Nurse Ratchet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah, at first it seems like he's quoting him, and then not so much. Julie Benz turns in a less than convincing performance to me. I'm not real impressed with her casting in this.
No, she's really weird.
That is Darla from Buffy, for people that aren't familiar, and I wonder if her name in this is at all a nod to that, because this is not too long after Angel goes off the air. She's in as much of that as she is Buffy, and her name in this is Angela.
Maybe, but probably not.
Thank you, Jack Gearhart. Orderly is the name that I was looking for. But I'm sorry.
There you go.
But I'm sorry, what did you say, Austin?
I said that's probably a coincidence. But
yeah, it may or may not be, but it's just kind of amusing to me that she gets that name in, like, probably the next thing she does. Maybe she's in one or two things before this, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. But this is after Dexter, I think, too.
Oh, I forgot she was in that.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, is she in that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 'cause she's in that, and then I think after her appearance, is it after you get the girl from Chuck?
Oh, okay. Yeah, she's not great in this, but I think she's the biggest weak link. She reminds me, especially in this scene, I thought of it this time. She reminds me a bit of Katie Holmes in Batman Begins.
Oh, interesting.
Not as, like, childlike, but it's all in the voice, like when she's talking.
Well, and there are a few things that remind me of Begins with this movie, particularly some of the score in the second half.
Oh, definitely. I mean, they were totally looking at Begins with this movie, right?
Yep.
I mean, when this came out, people complained it was too much like The Dark Knight. Like, it was looking too much at that. But, like, it came out a few months after the Dark Knight, so that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's interesting. No, this feels like, I don't want to say a relic, but like the one of the last vestiges of an era of superhero movies, the very same year that everything changes with Dark Knight and Iron Man. And in a minute, I want to talk about why you think this movie didn't perform, because it was a huge bomb and, like, one of the biggest...
critically and financially,
it's
and everyone's forgotten it.
Yeah, pre-MCU and obviously afterwards, this is the biggest bomb Marvel ever had. It made less money than Howard the Duck. Like, it's the biggest bomb they ever had. But before we get to all of that, I just have to mention how odd the little girl is in this scene. Because her mom has a man at gunpoint, and first she is concerned that she's throwing F-bombs and doesn't seem all that worried about the gun or anything. And then she goes inside the house, and then her mom still has this man at gunpoint, and then she's worried about a red pen she can't find. And I don't believe any of that. I just think that's really strange. And then later, Frank keeps... I like the flashlight, though. That's a nice touch at the end of this scene.
I think her and Frank's moments that they get here and there are cute.
Yeah.
It's not in your face.
No, I like their chemistry a lot. But I think it is that typical movie problem where they can't decide how old she is. Because later Frank keeps talking about how smart she is, and I just can't help but think, not that smart. She doesn't seem to know what guns do, but okay.
What, have you never played with Nerf?
AMC worse than Ghost Rider 2? I think this did perform worse than Ghost Rider 2. or Spirit of Vengeance. I can't even really say 2 because that's a reboot with the same actor before it's anything.
And they're the only 2 Marvel Knights films. They get that logo at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, I thought 04 Punisher was supposed to be the first in that line, whether it got that logo or not. But I don't know if that.
I think it's got like
true.
a black logo, but I think that
I read that somewhere, but I don't know how true that is.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that starts with this, but I could be wrong. Because I think it's just those 2 films.
But yeah, so this movie makes $10 million on a $35 million budget.
Just makes me sad.
And I want us to talk a little bit about why we think that might be, Austin. Like, how much of it has to do with the movie just maybe not getting enough advertising? Like, was it not in people's faces enough? The big question I have is how well would a Thomas Jane sequel have done over this? Like was any Punisher sequel kind of destined to fail?
Yeah, I'm not sure. And then obviously word of mouth didn't help because people treated this the same way they treated Batman and Robin. So like that certainly didn't help. But I don't really know why this bombed. And I think for me, because I like it so much, like I just feel like how did this happen? I don't know. I don't get it.
I mean, I feel like it's the kind of movie that there ought to be an audience for.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure why it was maligned quite as hard as it was. Like, Ebert seemed to like it better than most critics, gave it a 2 out of 4, which seems like a fair score to me. Like, it's not terrible. It's just middle of the road. And he said that it's like maybe the best looking bad movie that he had seen up to that point. Like, and when he calls this a bad movie, he was talking about that in like the context as he said a lot of bad trash, of good trash, like a movie that was not really made to be, deep, smart, intelligent, intelligent, intelligent cinema. It's supposed to be escapist and schlocky and preposterous.
Yeah, like people will complain that like Jigsaw's accent's too silly, like it's not completely intentional. And I don't know, I don't really get it.
Yeah, I think it's clear what the movie wants to be, with the exception of, as I said earlier, and I don't mean to repeat myself too much, but I just think it starts with too interesting and somber and like sad of an idea that I want to see explore for the schlockiness of it. Because like it is a big dumb movie, but it doesn't start from a dumb place.
Yeah, and I mean I think by this point that kind of shift that we're now fully into with the Punisher is starting to happen. It's like that may be part of it, but like we make movies like this even to this day. There just aren't Punisher movies. Like I said, I think John Wick is probably the best Punisher film franchise we've ever had. Like it's not like we don't make movies that aren't basically what this character is. Like I don't know, it's really strange.
Yeah, you just mean like personal revenge thrillers?
Yeah. Where a character's gonna go around killing criminals.
Yeah, and you make it a catharsis for the audience where we don't condone what the character does, but there's a part of us there's that primal, like, animal part of us that just wants to get back at, anyone that's wronged us or...
But it's a different power fantasy that all
kind
superheroes are, right?
That kind of injustice. Yeah, absolutely. But there is a distinction between the power fantasy of you're using your might to help someone versus the power fantasy of you're using your might to destroy evil,
bad people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and there's something of a question of where Frank Castle is supposed to be at the end of this movie, because there's like an ambiguity as to whether he is going to continue or in what capacity, because he's in a place here where he's about ready to quit, and then you get to the end of the movie and he saves Soap, and we have the big silly cheesy thing in the background with the church, where Jesus goes away and it's just saves, because that's what the Punisher is doing.
Yeah.
So my question is, does the Punisher in that moment, is he trying to be kind of more of a hero versus a Punisher? Like, he's still killing the guy, but he's questioning the whole movie if he needs to be punished as much as some of the people that he's been punishing, because he killed somebody that didn't deserve it and was on the side of right? Mm-hmm. And then when you get to the end, he's still doing the same thing, but maybe in a different capacity. I can't tell. So, like, have we taken him in more of a sort of pseudo-superhero direction at that point? I mean, it becomes a moot point because we don't make another one. Mm-hmm. But I kind of wonder what his arc is supposed to be in that sense. And that's where the story itself breaks down for me a little bit, because this interesting kind of like character, this sort of character study we're doing with him, and where he's like soul searching, is really interesting to me. And then I feel like the movie kind of drops that, or doesn't drop it, but can't really decide what it's about by the end.
So I think... and maybe it's because I just know this character too well. I think it's that Batman thing of, it's the refusal to change, where it's, no, I'm going to keep being the Punisher. Like, this bad thing happened and I'm not happy that it happened, but I can't just not be the Punisher.
But you have to look at it in the context of the story, and even visually what's going on in that scene at the very end. The Punisher is established, and of course this is just straight up comic book, is doing what he does because he thinks these people deserve it more than to rescue anyone. And then he says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to take out this one last bad person. And it's mostly because if he, and this is actually what Wayne Knight is talking about right now, Microchip, if he doesn't take out Jigsaw, then the family of the guy that he accidentally killed is going to get caught in the crossfire. He's going to go get revenge on them. And so it becomes about saving these people. But he's not planning on continuing after that. And then he seems to maybe change his mind at the end when he saves Soap. So is he doing it for the same reasons that he was doing it in the first place, or has he had a change of heart?
I think the point of that ending is, okay, so you took out that guy, but there's always that guy. Like, that's the point of that scene, is he did it to save these people, and then you immediately hit, this other person is going to get killed by a criminal. So at the end of the day, like, the exact reason that the Punisher came back to do this will always exist. It's just the person that he's doing it for.
But it's not why he was doing it before, so I have a motivation question.
Okay.
Mm. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that's not why he was killing anybody in the first place. Mm. Yeah, so I don't know if the movie realizes that he seems to have... When you say it's a character who refuses to change, in his way, yes, but his motivation seems to have, maybe. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the movie knows that.
Yeah, I've always taken it that, he's bummed that this thing happened, but at the end of the day, being the Punisher is more important, and he has to keep doing it, because he does more good than he does harm. This is always the way I've read where he is by the end.
And see, I have a little bit of a hard time with that, because I don't know if I agree with that.
I mean, that just comes down to personal taste, I guess.
Even with what happens in the movie, because, I don't know, there's this kind of muddled question at the beginning, I think, of like what the Punisher should be learning from the problems he's causing and the events that are happening. Like, on the one hand, he kills someone that's on the side of right and that didn't deserve it, and so he's got to be more careful about that. But then he creates the villain of the piece by letting a guy live that he should have killed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's got to kill them all.
crazy parkour meth heads.
We're coming to one of the best moments in all of cinema.
That is maybe the most hyperbolic thing you've said so far on this show.
Not as much as you would think. It's up there. That's a top 10 moment of cinema. This guy flipping, and he gets hit by a rocket launcher mid-flip.
Well, and I think all of this hilarious action. You know what? Actually, you may have a case now that you say that. I thought you were talking about the impaling thing. No, you're talking about this. I forgot about that. No, that's amazing.
That is so funny, and like.
For anybody that's not watching, there's a rocket launcher that Frank Castle shoots at one of these parkour guys that's flipping off a roof, and he just explodes, and like the rock song that's playing stops. It's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we're in a Daredevil scene, like the Ben Affleck movie, and the Punisher was like, "No." It's so funny.
Yeah, and some of the rock music in this movie really dates it, and I don't care.
Yeah, it is what it is.
But also, like, I kind of missed that era. Like, I liked that stuff. Like,
that's fair.
Like, I don't care. That's fun for me.
It doesn't do anything for me, but at the same time, I understand why somebody making a Punisher movie would go to that kind of music. Like, I'm sure a lot of that kind of music and Punisher fans, I'm sure, go hand in hand a lot of the time.
So yeah, I feel like an idiot because I really did think that he just let that guy live, and I was like, that was a really strange cut.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that gag, and the fence that he's in looks exactly like the Daredevil scene, you know, where the guy impales his own face on a fence. Like it looks like it's on the same alley. Like it's interesting.
The thing I think the reason maybe that I missed it is because we get into this like backstory scene where we're developing Budiansky's character, and I've just completely forgotten about the Punisher at that point.
When you don't get like a good look at the guy, I guess you could do here, but I love that the Punisher uses his face to help him land.
Wait, no, that's a different guy.
No, that's the same guy. That's
the Dreadlocks guy?
Yep.
Oh, I guess it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Boy, the lighting really messed with me there, because he doesn't look like he has as dark a skin.
Yeah. So
that threw me off. Well, I couldn't even see the dreadlocks until he was dangling and hanging. The blood was coming off his face. So I said I'm good with the pacing with this movie, and I'll stand by that for the most part. Although I think some of this goes on a little too long.
Oh, fair enough.
In the house.
Yeah. I'm just always happy every time Jigsaw's being silly, which is every time he's on camera.
No, that's true. Well, this actor completely disappears behind that makeup.
Oh, he's so good.
I love the difference between the performances he's giving, and you know who he reminds me of a little bit.
Who's that?
He reminds me of the Dorian character from The Mask.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's a lot like that, where he's like generic mob boss guy. He also maybe had a little bit of a vanity thing.
Yeah.
And then he gets a mask and he's like totally liberated.
Yeah. I like Jigsaw more than that guy, but I can definitely see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I just think that they're similar in the way they're characterized and the approaches from the actors too.
Yeah. So this fight scene is just right out of They Live, where we just stop for a fight scene that goes on longer than it really needs to.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's not as long as the They Live fight scene, but it's definitely an homage to it, I think.
Well, I think the thing I like the most about this movie is that it feels like a super competently made B movie. Like,
absolutely.
Like that's what's fun about it.
Yeah.
And why I'm a little bit frustrated. This is going to sound so weird. I'm frustrated when I'm actually feeling something because I almost don't want it to ever be that kind of movie. You know what I mean? Like, it almost... it almost gets too sophisticated in places with Frank Castle, which I'm sure nobody agrees with. But that's how I feel about where I'm suddenly imagining this much smarter movie, but that's not what this movie wants to be.
Yeah, I think, because I can understand where you're coming from, because it's in that middle place. I like that it's as ridiculous as it is, but I get moments where I go, okay, but I like this character moment. But this is also my type of thing, so
sure. But don't you also find yourself imagining, with the way she's shooting this and lighting it and everything, what a much more sober and serious adaptation of one of the Punisher Max stories might have been?
Not so much, just because this is more colorful than that book is. Like, it's almost like a hodgepodge between Max and just traditional Punisher.
That's true. Yeah.
But I don't, because this is less Max, I think, and more Welcome Back Frank, which is an insane book and it's awesome. But that's also Ennis.
I keep thinking that she's trying to mostly do Punisher Max because that was what was really popular then,
and that's all they talked about behind the scenes.
Yes,
Max.
and that's all he read.
Mm-hmm. But there's not that much
Stevenson.
Max. it's weird. I think it's way more Welcome Back Frank, because every Punisher adaptation takes from that. But that's what Ennis does before Max.
Shoot him.
But that's a book where Punisher.
The next thing you do, cops,
right?
is fire. I don't want to say this cop deserved to be impaled, but of course she got impaled. She hesitated for no reason. Just shoot your weapon.
She's never seen surviving edged weapons. Clearly.
That's too deep a cut, dude.
I'm sorry.
That's a Red Letter Media reference. I know what you're talking about.
See, I love all the stuff of just them destroying things in the house. He's just smashing plates for no reason.
Yeah, and he's really angry about it too. He's looking for something, and you can explain away anything that LBJ does. I'm just gonna call him that because it's wonderful. With what he's an absolute psychopath, and I do like, they talk about this in the behind the scenes, and I felt like I was seeing it too. I like the kind of degeneration that he has throughout the movie off his medication.
Oh yeah,
you can really see that where he gets crazier and crazier. There's a definite evolution of that. Mm-hmm. It's gradual.
Nuts. You know what they are? They're the villains of Batman Forever if they're working together as actors, and they're not.
Oh, that's great.
And they're not trying to fight each other to be the top dog.
Yeah, I mean, did you say Forever or Batman and Robin?
Forever.
That's what I was. Yeah, I was gonna say Forever.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and immediately that makes that a better movie, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I love that you said that. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, that's absolutely right.
I didn't think of it until right this moment, because I was just thinking about the way they're mugging off of each other.
Yeah, because you have a couple fun moments in Batman Forever, show me how to punch a guy, but they're much more loggerheads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can feel how much the actors are not getting along, on camera.
Yeah, and these guys seem like they want to get married.
Yeah, these guys could start kissing between takes.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on.
You wouldn't even be surprised, but you wouldn't be surprised about that on screen, and they're supposed to be brothers.
Yeah, well, he would start doing his Woody Woodpecker laugh, and then they would start kissing.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's. He's got his own version of the Nelson Ha thing.
Yeah, he's got a Woody Woodpecker laugh, and it's really funny.
He does it every scene, and it should be way too irritating,
annoying,
but it kind of works. I like that he's got a character thing, and he actually has a couple of character things.
It's super RoboCop-y, right? Because RoboCop does that where it's here's this gang, and they all have that specific thing that you remember them by. One of them is a laugh.
Yeah, The Crow kind of has that too.
Oh, okay, I've never seen The Crow, so...
Well, and visually there are parts of this that kind of remind me of that. This struck me as kind of a blend of The Crow and 1990 Ninja Turtles, just in the look of it. And I like that it has
partly because Punisher lives in the sewer, right?
Yes, but it has the grit of that, and the kind of lack of polish that gives that movie a lot of credibility, and it made me go. That's why I'm saying that it feels like a movie that that's really embracing the time period that it feels more like it's made in, as opposed to you're watching it and going like, you guys do realize this feels like a 20-year-old movie, right? Like, it feels like it gives you that feeling, at least it gives me the feeling of, why don't we make movies like this anymore, more than God, it's so old. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, that's the distinction.
It's not that Sony thing with their Marvel movies where you go, why are you still trying to ape this? Like, we moved away from this.
That's the point I'm making. Yeah, and we should have. And there's things with this movie where I'm like, no, we shouldn't have moved away from that. Part of it is the budget, is like how small of a movie this is. I wish we could do that. It's in hindsight. It feels quaint in the right way, and kind of like the way Iron Man was too in starting MCU, where you're like, God, I wish we could just get back to making like smaller movies that don't all feel the same.
Mm. Yeah, exactly.
And that's why Joker was a fresh air. Like, we need more of this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't love this movie, but that's one of the things I really respect about it.
Yeah. No, and I can appreciate this because this is very much a taste kind of movie. Like, I adore this movie, but it's a movie that I feel like is made for me.
But that's the other thing I like about it, is that it doesn't have to be for everybody.
Yeah. No, that's
and it is
one
telling
of the big
you
third that I want.
It is telling you what it's trying to accomplish, and it is overall, I think, more or less accomplishing that. And then there's just that third question of, was it worth doing that in the first place? And some people will feel like it is, and some people won't.
And I feel like even if this wasn't my thing, I would still respect it on that level for not just being generic. Like, let's make this for everybody. Like most of these films are now.
The bare bones minimum is, it feels like they were trying.
Mm-hmm. And I respect that there's like no pretense to this movie. It's just like, this is what we wanted to make. We made it. We made exactly
I also like
what we were attempting.
I also like how it gets in and gets out.
Yeah.
This movie has no business being any longer than it is, and it's not. It's an hour 45, and that's perfect.
Yep.
I don't like the way we talk about the snow globe, because it's stupid.
What way?
Can I complain about this?
Go for it.
Frank says,
I really like this scene. Go complain about it.
That was Lisa's favorite toy. She used to get so upset with her brother for hiding it. I'm like, it's a breakable snow globe.
Oh yeah, no, I do think it's really funny that he says it's her favorite toy, because it's not a toy, it's a snow globe.
It's not a toy. I rewound it and looked at that scene a second time, wondering if there was something else in the box they were talking about it. It's not. It's the snow globe.
It's the snow globe. No, that line's really funny. I think the moment's really nice, but I do agree that him going,
no,
that's their favorite toy is really funny.
No, I like that scene a lot, and I buy the bond they have. I just think saying that was his kid's favorite toy is so stupid.
It's really funny, yeah. No, I agree with that. But I also just like that we essentially give a stand-in for at least one of his kids, and we're not like super in your face, like, do you get it? Like, it's just, yeah, like there it is.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. That's nice.
Mm-hmm. Because it could have been very easy for him to be like, she's so much like my daughter.
Yeah.
Especially because this isn't like a great script. Like, it very easily could have been like that.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising the ways it doesn't hold the audience's hand. Because it is a dumb schlock kind of piece.
Yeah. I didn't notice until last night that the double-sided mirror is broken.
Yes.
That's just really funny.
Yeah, they did that off camera. Because he breaks every mirror in a room that he's in, so that his brother doesn't have to look at his reflection. So he's already broken it, and you didn't even see it happen.
Now he gets to look at like 8 million of his reflections, really small.
Yeah, I don't want to overlook the crazy number of stunts in the scene that we talked over earlier where he breaks all the mirrors, because there's some like crazy mirror breaking going on there. He's doing like flips, and he's crashing his own body into them, and
no, that scene's really funny.
What do you think of the biological weapon plot?
I mean, I like how it's ultimately wrapped up, I guess. It's like this weird small thing that's just kind of in the background, and then it kind of just like comes up so we can get Jigsaw out of prison.
Yeah, I like that he ultimately just uses it for leverage.
Yeah, I like that
to get resources, to just, you know, get his money and get his revenge. Like that's all he cares about. And so at first it looks like it's gonna be a big 9/11 commentary, and then that's just in the background.
No, and
he's able to use that to manipulate people.
Very post 9/11.
Yes. Well, there's references to 9/11. We're coming right out and talking about it.
Well, there's that scene where Microchip talks about how he's basically on like Craigslist for terrorists.
Yes. Well, I like that we get into
rocket launchers.
I like that we get into all the different ways that Microchip gets weapons.
Yeah,
that's cool. There's like he has like 3 explanations for different ways he gets weapons, and like manipulating the cop buyback program and all of that.
Oh, that part's really cool.
There's actually some smart stuff there.
Yeah, no, that's a really cool idea. We should mention that because that's something that I think we both can agree on, is that Microchip should be in this movie more.
So that is absolutely inspired casting. I remember even when this came out and I heard that Wayne Knight was playing Microchip, an actor that I had not seen in anything in a while. Like, he seemed to kind of disappear for a bit. And he's still around, but he's not in a lot of high-profile things anymore. But yeah. Occasionally I'll see him interviewed in something, in like, he's aged really well, he looks great, but I just never see him in anything anymore. And even by 2008, I wasn't seeing him much. And I was like, that's great casting. Like, maybe I'll actually watch that movie. And then when I finally saw it, I was like, but where is he? Like, the scenes he has, he's wonderful. And,
yeah, but he's only got like 3 or 4
and
scenes.
He's not played for comic relief. Like, he's doing sort of a standard Wayne Knight thing, but then he's got a bit of like real pathos behind him.
No, he's a guy, like, he is a funny guy, but he's not, like you said, he's not comedic.
It feels like that's just his personality.
Exactly.
They're using
like
soap as comic relief.
He's comic relief.
Yeah, soap is your real comic relief in this movie.
Soap and the villains.
Well, yes, yeah, absolutely.
But I also like his like I don't even know what to call him, like sidekick guy that he gets in this movie. That was like a former criminal. We don't do a ton with that, but I like the little bit that we get with that.
No, I don't love the way he goes out either. Like,
it's very like Blade. Like, that's the Whistler death.
I just feel like his character is thrown a little bit under the bus, and then we try to make up for it with the euthanasia thing. And I'm like, but you guys just made him look so incompetent that I don't think it's fair to the character the way we've set him up. Because
you think so?
Yeah, because Frank's like keep your eyes open, like, be really careful, and then he's just like dancing around with a little girl and playing with her, and then LBJ shows up and just like throws something at his head and knocks him out. He does nothing to defend the little girl. Like, he's not given any chance in the script to do anything. I just would have liked to have seen him fight back a little bit.
That's fair. I don't know. I don't mind that he's basically like blindsided. That's fair.
I probably wouldn't mind it as much if it weren't for this moment when they make direct eye contact and Frank says, "Be alert," and he isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at first we're supposed to be suspicious of him a little bit because he used to be a gangbanger.
Yeah.
And, like, again, Frank is having to look real hard at his worldview and realize that things aren't as black and white as he thinks there are, and he's having to work with a guy that used to maybe, in his eyes, quote-unquote, deserve punishment, and he's learning that, like, people can change, which is spelled out at the end by Soap in that scene I don't love that we end with. No, people can change, Frank, but sorry, I've got to interrupt myself for a second because this is the bit in this movie that kind of bothers me more than anything.
Well, I have like a quick thing with that. Oh, it's already gone, so it doesn't really matter anyways. But
go ahead.
Well, I just had a funny thing I noticed last night, which is whenever we're in scenes like that where we have very obvious rear projection, I always like to look at it. And Jigsaw's apparently a really slow driver because every car is passing them. In the background, there's like 15 cars that pass them in one scene.
He's got to go 20 miles an hour until he gets finished with his speech, and then he'll start speeding up after that.
But sorry, that was just a stupid, funny thing I noticed last night.
Tell me if there's something I'm missing with this.
Yeah.
The way his mother died was very gruesome and awful.
That's awesome.
But tell me... Just let him defend her a little bit. Whatever. Anyway, so
we don't have enough time, Cap.
Jigsaw. We've got to end this movie in an hour 45. It's very important.
This scene can't be any longer.
I don't understand why this scene happens where it happens. This is my big question. What am I missing? So they're in the car, and Jigsaw says, "Here's the plan. We're going to go look for gangbangers, people on the street. We're
gonna start recruiting people.
We're gonna recruit people. I'm looking for a few good men, right? And we're gonna do that before we kill the Punisher. And before that, his brother says, "Let's go kill the Punisher in his hole." And Jigsaw's like, "No, wait up, we can't do that yet." And then I've got this total whiplash when the very next scene, his brother is in the Punisher's lair. If that's not the hole, where is he talking about? And more than that, they can't know the Punisher isn't going to be there.
So some of this,
I don't understand that. Something is missing,
some of this is like just weird editing. Like, it feels like there's maybe some scenes that are in the wrong place. That, like, in the editing room, they went, okay, well, this has to be here, I guess.
But
I don't entirely know.
But it feels like a combination of scenes out of order and possibly reshoots.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I can see that
there's
too.
Not a way to re-edit that where it makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that bit right there where they kidnap the girls and then Jigsaw, it's like they're trying to, it's like in editing they're trying to cover it in like in reshoots. Like, I wonder if that scene wasn't made after a lot of the movie was, because Jigsaw goes, now we're gonna go recruit people. How do they even know where the Punisher lives?
No, I had the same thoughts last night. Like, that feels really sloppy. That's probably the biggest hole in this movie is that, because I don't think there's a ton of plot holes because there's not a ton of plot.
No, there's not, but that's the big one.
That's the big one.
No, you're right. If you make a movie this simple, you're able to avoid a lot of that.
Yeah. I really like this line.
If I see you in your hell.
Yeah.
I like the way the Punisher is turned around and is like finding some of his humanity, and that's making it very difficult for him to reconcile his worldview. I love all of that,
and I like the choice that we made Punisher Christian, because that's not a thing.
That's the big thing that made me want him and Daredevil.
Yeah, absolutely.
This does feel like we're just ripping off that scene, doesn't it?
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, this is kind of the father guy you have in Daredevil.
Yeah, except it almost feels like it should be a really famous actor or something, because he gets one scene and never again. Like, it feels like a cameo.
It's Thomas Jane comes in. It was too distracting, so they reshot it with no one.
Well, that was actually another question I was going to ask you is, do you think maybe one of the reasons this movie didn't perform was that it didn't have any kind of star power? There's not a huge actor in this movie, and
it's interesting.
You had Travolta as the villain for the first one.
When we keep mentioning the Batman thing, and like obviously the villains with those are where you use like your big name actor, but instead we use character actors.
Yeah,
and I respect it for that, definitely, but I can see that being a thing.
Yeah, it's not a mistake for the movie necessarily, but I'm just wondering if that might not have something to do with why nobody went and saw it.
Yeah.
I suspect more of it than anything, though, was people just didn't even know about it.
Most likely. It was probably bad marketing. Julie Benz should have been Angelina Jolie. There you go. That's your star power.
Oh, okay.
This
Does
is
that
right
ever
around
work,
London.
though? Do we ever get butts in seats because of the well, I was going to say love interest, not in this case, but like the token attractive female character in a male-driven superhero movie? Like, does that ever work?
This is right around Wanted, and that's what they did for Wanted with Angelina Jolie.
Oh, okay.
So yes.
That's fair.
Just having an extra shot where the Punisher bends a bullet around her to hit Jigsaw, and there you go.
Didn't Wanted have some star power, though? There's somebody else in that, isn't there?
James McAvoy is the lead, but that's like his first
Nobody
thing.
knows him yet. Yeah,
Exactly. Morgan Freeman's in that, but like Morgan Freeman's weird when it comes to that.
You're right. But you don't even have a Morgan Freeman in this movie.
No. Morgan Freeman should have been this FBI guy.
Robo Brando says Dominic West was pretty big after The Wire, but they also covered his face in makeup. Yeah, and I respect a guy like that to be okay with that much prosthetic, partly because it's awful to work in, but also, as you say, because you're not going to see his face the whole time, and so
we didn't do that with Netflix. Like,
yeah. If with Netflix, it felt like that guy needed his FaceTime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was super annoying. I also like that they make his name more Italian, where it's like instead of Billy Russo, it's like Billy Rusciotti.
So there's a cut of this movie, right, where they have the conversation in the car, and then the next scene is this scene, right?
100%. Yeah. Because that feels like that's where it should be. And this
was this flag
like,
just
inspirational music, and he's like Nazi walking down the street. So
yeah.
funny.
Do they have a big TV that just happens to have a flag on it that they're standing in front of right now? Like, what is happening?
So I've always just seen it as that's not really the background, but they do it because it's funny.
I'm not convinced. In fact, I'll say this: I am convinced that they are not in the same room with these people.
Oh, they're definitely not. But it works.
Oh, I guess
it's
the idea
like
is supposed to
edges,
be
so
that
it
they're
is like
giving
TV.
multiple speeches to different people in different buildings, right?
Yeah.
In that case, yes, you're right, and they did just get silly and put a flag behind them, and that's supposed to be obvious symbolism.
It suddenly
Not even
turns
symbolism.
it suddenly turns into like Be Prepared from The Lion King.
That's true. Yeah, imagine this is a musical.
Hey yo, be prepared. For what? For the death of the Punisher.
But yeah,
Why, is he sick?
he is trying to spin it from the beginning as like a pseudo patriotic thing, and again, I don't think the movie is saying anything at all with that. I think it's just Jigsaw like
I think it's just funny.
messing around.
Yeah. I like that when he's talking to the FBI, he's like, "Hey, I'm a patriot."
Yeah, that's a character thing with him.
Yeah.
But he's also, from the perspective of the gangbangers on the street, who like obviously are all criminals, they would all see the Punisher as like getting in the way of their freedom.
Yeah, exactly.
So it makes sense that he's appealing to that. He's treating it like, well, and you know what else I like? I like it as a military thing up against the Punisher, where it's like he's building his army to go against an ex-Marine who is going to have his own army.
Yeah.
And it justifies the title,
you know,
because nothing else justifies the title. Like, that's as close to a war that you get. And I also like that it's kind of a three-pronged war, because you also get the incitement of the mob boss whose son Jigsaw gets put away in a few scenes ago, who had the biological weapon.
Yeah, the Russians. And I really like that. So you have these Russian gangsters that show up in the base floor to kind of start off the violence that the Punisher can kind of go in between. Like, it's his way in. But I like that, we set up this FBI guy throughout the movie, and he doesn't get to come into the climax, because that's not what we do with superhero movies anymore. Like, the entire cast has to be there for the climax doing things. And I like that it's just Frank running around a building killing people.
Yeah, I do too. And I wonder how much of a red herring the biological weapon is supposed to be. Where, like, is it supposed to be an intentional kind of undercutting reveal when that's not the third act?
I think so. Because it plays like setup, like, oh, there's this biological weapon going around New York. Like,
that's a decent subversion of expectations, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we are going to have a war of sorts at the end, but at the end of the day, it really is a traditional revenge thriller. It's personal. It's just about these guys.
Been more typical, right? Like, there's like the big biological weapon the Punisher's got to stop at the end.
Yeah, I just like the idea that even at this point in the history of superhero movies and action movies at large, we've got the script saying, yeah, we've seen this too many times.
Do you think there's a version of the script where the biological weapon's the big thing at the end and it shoots a big biological blue laser into the sky?
Yeah, or it turns everyone into jigsaws.
I mean, I want to see that. I'm gonna turn everybody into me, okay? Jigsaw.
Yeah, I thought it was weird in the behind the scenes that the only, like, stylized comic book movie that anybody brings up in comparison to this is Dick Tracy, because of course that is an obvious comparison, and I was thinking that too, particularly with lighting and colors. Mm-hmm. But, like, there's some Blade here, there's some Crow here, like, even
there's some Burton and Schumacher Batman.
Yeah.
There's a whole
bunch of stuff. And I think Batman they're obviously looking at. Yeah. Some of the other movies that I'm thinking of while I'm watching this might not have been direct inspirations, but might have come to some of the same things for the same reasons, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of just got like our first hint at where we're going with this, but that's another big subversion of the typical trope is we get a sadistic choice that's actually a sadistic choice.
Yes.
Because we always cheat
and that's not going to work out ultimately.
Exactly. And I really like that he doesn't find a way to save both. Because that's always what we do whenever we set up the sadistic choice.
And I also like that the way around it isn't, like, give in to the villain's demands, because that always ends in, I'm going to kill them both anyway. And then who was surprised by that?
He finds his cheat, but also doesn't get to save both.
Yeah.
They get to have their cake and eat it, too, in a way. Yeah, absolutely.
So I was, the first time I saw this and in previews and stuff, distracted by the tall collar. Is that a comic book thing?
I don't think so. I've never seen a Punisher with a big collar.
Is there some reason for that? Like,
I think it's just like a tactical thing. Like he's got like that protection around his neck. I don't know.
He doesn't even have different like variations in the costume. He's always got that tall collar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've always, with the costume, the only thing I think is weird in this movie is with how stylized it is. It's weird how muted the skull is.
Yeah, but the shape of it's really cool.
Oh, it's really cool. Yeah.
It's definitely one of the best variations of that, and I like how big it is. But you're right; it's a little muted.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like it's been in the washing machine a few too many times.
I mean, maybe that's just part of, he's been doing this for a long time. He's never repainted it.
You'd think he'd have like 19 of them. He's gonna go out and do this on a nightly basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got like the Punisher costume room.
While we're talking about superficial stuff, I'm also distracted by just how, like, slicked back his hair is. Anytime your main character feels like they looks like they just got out of the shower every scene.
That's the big thing that's super Punisher Max visually, is the slick back hair.
But I guess when you have an ultra stylized thing like this that's supposed to be right off a comic book page, you get away with that.
It's one of those things. It's like, you know how the Burton Batman isn't actually putting eyeliner around his eyes. Like, I don't think the Punisher is actually spending hours, making his hair look like that.
No, he wakes up like that.
Yeah, exactly.
He puts a comb through it, and magically it looks like that now.
He doesn't shower, so it's just greasy.
Yeah.
I think all of this
if we're fine with
really fun.
Deadpool's eyes changing in the mask, which I want for superhero stuff, then that's fine too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a pretentious reading too much into something read real quick, Austin.
That guy doesn't have a leg to stand on? Go ahead.
There are some like pretty obvious symbols in our colors with this movie, but I don't mind it. Like, we've got red for rage. I think yellow here is like caution. What's coming around the corner. We've got yellow everywhere. It's yellow alert.
Punisher's like his base is blue because it's a cool, relaxed light.
Well, but what I was going to say about that is blue in this movie is the color for tragedy and somberness and sadness.
True, yeah.
And he is heading down a hallway that at the end is blue, and I'm going to read that as foreshadowing for Microchip's death.
Mm-hmm. That he's heading towards sadness.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I buy that. And everything is blue for him and himself. No, it's funny after the Netflix stuff because each of those shows had like their specific color that they make everything look like, and this is all of them.
Yeah, apparently they had a rule where each scene could only have 3 colors.
Yeah, apparently they had like set design and lighting and stuff that was all colored, but like the sets would be painted like bright colors, and none of it worked well together, so they had a rule of only having 3 colors.
Yeah, and she got like neurotic about it.
Yeah.
The way she talks about that in the features.
They would be like in a yellow and purple scene, and she would be like, "Why is this fire hydrant red?"
They'd have to color it, or they'd have to paint it. And she was like, there was a black coffee cup. I couldn't have that. I had to take that out of the scene.
That's like John Malkovich in Transformers 3. Why is there a red cup on the yellow floor?
I just feel really bad for her that this didn't perform because you could tell how hard she worked on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that because like she's a female director, so she got a raw deal on a lot of movies. I mean, like, that sucks, but she seems talented.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it sucks because I like this movie a lot. Like, I wish she got more work.
I wish she got more stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like I'm not giving her what people felt like was a mediocre movie a pass because she's a female director. I'm saying, like, I don't love this movie. I can kind of see why people didn't care. I also don't get why it performed as poorly as it did.
Yeah.
But I'm also looking at a movie made with some passion and some grit and some love and care.
Yeah. No, and
I feel bad for her.
I want the universe where this performs and I get sequels to this. And I get to see, like, what other craziness they had in store.
So I was going to mention this earlier. LBJ's other character thing is that he is intimately familiar with biology.
Yeah.
Like, he's read a lot of, like, textbooks, it sounds like.
Yeah. He's read a lot of cookbooks.
No, that's the mother. That's Microchip's mom.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But, like, he keeps talking very technically about the human body.
Yeah.
And he'll throw out these tidbits.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a fun character thing.
No, I like that where he's hitting Punisher and being like, yeah, and this is what this did to you, and this is what that did to you.
Yeah, he said, this is a torn meniscus. So this bit is hilarious. He runs in and he says, James? And then the other guy says, gun.
Yeah.
That didn't mean anything in 2008, but it's hilarious now.
Mm-hmm. If only Gunn got to do a Punisher movie.
I mean, I'm sure that would have been fine. Like, that seems like a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
Like, he could have made that movie.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he could have done a really cool Punisher movie.
Bastard.
No. You won't learn nothing, James.
You won't learn nothing. So I don't want to sound...
Forever also has a sadistic choice.
Yep. No, that's right.
The Batman just gets over.
Yeah, this definitely feels like it's trying to subvert that trope.
Oh, 100%. And I appreciate that because that's like a big complaint I have whenever we do this.
Yeah.
It would be nice in superhero movies if we had enough stakes that if we set this up, we don't immediately write them out.
It is weird that this comes out the same year as Dark Knight because
Dark Knight also does that.
It also does this, yeah.
Good call.
And it does it with a child.
Oh, we're thinking of two different sadistic choices because I'm thinking of the Harvey and Rachel one. Dark Knight technically does it twice.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking about the one that Harvey himself does at the end.
Yeah.
Which isn't really a sadistic choice. No, it is, with Gordon.
Yeah. So that one Batman gets out of, but he doesn't get out of the first one.
Yeah. But that's more like this because it's about guns.
Yeah.
And it's in one place.
Yeah.
And there's a child involved.
And they both kill the villain.
Yeah. I would have... As goofy as his accent is, I would have done another take when he says "Faust." Doesn't feel like it fits in the accent he's doing.
No other
That
take.
sounds like a speech impediment. Faust. You can't say his R's.
See, I'm sad on all levels in this because Micro died and also the villains have to die.
And they're hilarious and you love them.
Yeah, and I love Micro. He's got like 4 scenes, but I really like him. I think his death is genuinely pretty sad.
That's a place where we're finding a wonderful balance between the schlocky, goofy stuff and some actual real suspense and drama.
Yeah.
That's such a genuine performance that Wayne Knight is giving when he dies.
Yeah, 100%. No, and I think Stevenson sells it too. I also like that this is not an even fight. Like, we've spent this whole movie and now we're gonna watch him cathartically kick this man's ass.
Yeah. Well, the only chance he's got is element of surprise. I mean, the movie does a really good job of keeping Punisher the best at what he does.
Yeah.
There are other characters that I feel like should be more competent at what they're doing, but I appreciate that never happens to the Punisher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And now it's Star Trek Nemesis. At least he doesn't pull himself forward on the steel pike like Tom Hardy. The best part of this bit is that his eye catches on fire.
I know, it's so cool.
It's really cool.
Are you sad that they burned his nice jacket that he jogs in, though?
It keeps him safe when he's jogging outside the mental institution.
It keeps him safe when he's on fire.
Why does it look like he's in a modified straitjacket?
I don't know. He's got like a Michael Jackson. What is that song? They don't really care about us. Era Michael Jackson jacket. Yeah.
Well, I wondered if like he got it from the asylum because it looks like a straitjacket.
Yeah, it's like a cross between a straitjacket and like an SS uniform.
So, how do you feel about? I mean, we can both agree we don't love Julie Benz in this part, but just in the script, on a dialogue level, how do you feel about the way we leave things off with him and Angela? Because I kind of expected this to go a different way.
Oh, really? I feel like this is the kind of typical, like, I forgive you scene that we do.
That's what I
for
don't
all
like
the
about
stuff.
it. I thought we might subvert that also.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with it is the Punisher has created this entire situation. It's also his fault that they got kidnapped twice.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd think, like, when I say this is what you think would happen, I mean in real life. What you'd expect in a movie is what happens. Where I thought we might go, because it's more believable, would be for her to say, okay, thanks for rescuing us, but this is all your fault in the first place. Leave us alone. I hope we never see you again.
My child is dramatically
Yeah.
messed up now.
Yeah, that lunatic from the asylum shot all her dolls.
You picked up my daughter and shotgunned a man's face off.
Yeah, right? So I've already said everything I have to say about the scene. But yeah, it's weird that... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I just like this part where the thug walks in and he's like, Frank, Frank.
I know you're hiding somewhere because you just did this for dramatic effect.
And this guy looks like the most, like, stereotypical thug in any movie.
He looks like the drummer for a failed rock band.
Yeah, exactly. Like Nickelback.
But yeah, I think it's weird that Soap is suggesting, hey, maybe you should quit now, instead of that being framed as that's what he was gonna do, and now he's having second thoughts or something. Like, it's almost like that scene doesn't realize that that's a theme and an issue we've been dealing with this whole movie. It feels like it drops it, and then it comes back under a weird different context, and I can't explain exactly why I'm feeling this way. That feels like a reshoot kind of scene. That feels like we needed to tack something on.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and like
possibly.
maybe it was shot months later. Like, there's something very awkward about the final scene of that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it because I like that, like I said, him calling out, and I like, it's almost like the ending of Amazing Spider-Man 2 in like a microcosm in like 2 seconds, where it's like he's gonna come back and he just killed the rhino.
The tagline on the box that I have is "Vengeance has a name." It's like as generic as you possibly get. I want to be like, and the name that it has, besides vengeance,
is
the
John
Punisher.
Cena. That's interesting. They went with vengeance though, because like the big line they sold the Thomas Jane movie on is the "It's not vengeance, it's punishment."
Oh yeah,
and that was
and
on T-shirts. And
no,
stuff.
psych, it is vengeance.
No, it's punishment. It says on the T-shirt.
Oh, something else that I meant to bring up when we were talking about the stupidity of a snow globe is not a toy. That's a carousel, and it's a little surprising to me that there's not a carousel as part of the flashback with the death of the Punisher's family, because isn't that traditionally done on a carousel?
No, it's done like how it is, where like they're just having a picnic.
Okay.
That feels like it's at a face-off, like that type of thing. If they went on a carousel,
wasn't there a carousel thing in the second season of the Punisher show though? Isn't that weird? Their Jigsaw becomes Jigsaw's on a carousel. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that's because he's got like, I think one of the most horrific things happened to him at the end of season 1, where he like breaks the glass, because it's also with glass like it is here, and Punisher like drags his face across it.
Ugh.
Like just like over and over. No, when I saw it, I was like, oh man, he's gonna be maybe even more messed up, because that's like I feel like that's more graphic than Punisher Warzone is.
See, I was reminded of that when I saw the carousel, and I was like, oh, that's gonna be some kind of symbol having to do with his. Nope.
Yeah, no, I think that's a thing in the Netflix shows, because that's
okay.
Like where their big end fight is on a carousel. And then Jigsaw just like,
so obviously I'm not criticizing the movie. I just wanted
Yeah.
to bring that up because it's kind of odd that you have that and then Netflix went to a carousel and with that character.
Hmm. Yeah, and then that character's killed with like no fanfare in season 2. It's just, yeah, we had nothing else to do with him. Bye. He's not even really killed by the Punisher. Like he is, but not really. It's stupid.
It's been too long since I've seen that.
Yeah, he gets like fatally wounded by an FBI agent, and then he's like on the ground bleeding, and Punisher walks in and shoots him. It's real lame.
I remember liking the first episode of that second season quite a bit, and then it kind of went downhill from there.
I remember liking season 2 more than season 1, but it's been so long since I've seen either.
Yeah, my only complaint with one was that it was too decompressed, but I thought overall it was pretty decent. But I'm not a Punisher guy, so I heard a lot of Punisher fans saying like, "Oh, that's not Frank Castle," and I'm like, I guess I don't know enough about this character because I'm not understanding that complaint. But
The biggest issue with the Netflix shows is they're like too afraid of the material, and it's just like the beginning of every
I've heard a lot of people say that.
the beginning of every season is always, okay, well, I'm done. I'm retired. Okay, well, now I gotta come back because villain plot. But then he like never kills anybody until like the last 2 episodes.
Yeah, at least here he's got a really good reason for thinking about hanging up, and I like that it's because he's regretful about a thing that he did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. No, it comes from more of a character place for just the Punisher as a character.
I also meant to say this too. I also really respect that the movie is coming right out in the first 10 minutes and saying the Punisher is not a good person. Like, what he's doing. Like, again, there's that catharsis, and sometimes it comes from a good place with the people he's trying to protect ultimately, but, like, he's not doing the right thing.
Mm. Yeah. I feel like they kind of ride that line, because it's like, mistakes happen, but he's not like a great person. Like, it just kind of fits in just action movies, where he is the hero, but like he's not perfect.
Yeah, I don't know. You and I maybe look at it a little bit differently, because that's one of my issues with the ending, is that I feel like they might be setting him up to be sort of too heroic in a movie where I felt like they were saying he's not really a hero.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I've never really seen that, but I also feel like we see the ending slightly differently.
Yeah.
So
we've got just a couple of tweet-linked reviews here that I'll go ahead and read. Subject, this is John. It says, a really fun movie that's probably the closest to the comic book character we've had, 3 out of 4. And then Chewbacca's Lover says, Ray Stevenson is probably the most comic-accurate Punisher. He said the same thing. Costume notwithstanding, he looks exactly like the Max version. It's more goofy and less cerebral than those comics were, but the atmosphere and visuals are spot on to those comics. I like it overall. 3 out of 5. And you're saying that it's less Max visually and more other stuff.
Yeah, I think of Max as being more like realistic in how it looks, as opposed to how stylized this is.
I mean, it's real pencily and has like very exaggerated like faces and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, the big thing is I don't think of Max as being as colorful as this movie is.
Yeah, it's very black and gray.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
That's what I mean by it's got like splashes of color.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And to be fair, every arc of that doesn't look exactly the same either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very true. But we also, like, he's an older guy here. Not that he's, like, old.
Oh, that's, yeah.
He doesn't feel like a young Punisher. Like, he's clearly been at this for a while.
Yeah, he's probably age-wise somewhere between that initial Punisher Max Punisher and, like, the Jason Aaron Punisher Max Punisher. Because Jason Aaron's is a little bit older.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say he's probably somewhere between traditional, like, 616 Punisher and Max, because he's, like, 50, I would say, in Ennis.
Oh, is he? Okay, I thought he was younger than that.
I could be wrong because it's hard to tell sometimes
Yeah.
with comic book characters, but he's definitely
we make
an older
a big
guy.
deal with Jason Aaron that he's older, but I think, but it's been a while. I'm rusty. I could be completely wrong about everything I'm saying right now.
Because I feel like
I haven't read that in
Max,
10 years, so.
Yeah, and I haven't read through all of Max in a long time, but I feel like he's been punished for like 20, 30 years in Ennis.
Okay. Because now that I think of it, there's also like origins for Daredevil villains in that, and so maybe he's not as old as I'm thinking. I can't remember anymore. But
well, I think Aaron is is a continuation of Ennis. I haven't read the Aaron.
I couldn't remember if it was supposed to be or not.
But I think so, and Ennis doesn't have any of that, and then they bring some of it into Aaron. So
yeah. That's another thing I was going to say about this is that I appreciate how comic book stylized it is without feeling like I really want it to be part of a larger Marvel universe. It would be cool to see a team up with Punisher and stuff, with Daredevil and stuff. But like, if anything, like street level costume heroes without superpowers. But even that, like, you don't have to have. I'm just saying it's nice to have a distinction between comic book and superhero.
Well, I feel like this probably could have had the thing the Punisher kind of does in the comics, right? Where like this Punisher could have crossed over to the MCU. But also the MCU stuff doesn't really have to encroach on these Punisher movies.
Yeah, but it's always awkward when you have superheroes with like some of the outlandish powers that they do in the same world as this. Not just because, not just that maybe they don't mesh, but that somebody would have taken him out by now. You know what I mean? Somebody would have stopped him. How is he being allowed to go off and do the things he's doing?
Well, because if Captain America tried, he would just punch his face in. And he would be like, screw you, Chris Evans. The people I fight don't need to have face time in this movie.
Awesome, let's go ahead and do our rating.
Yeah.
For this movie. Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
I can start. I give this movie a superhero. I like this movie a lot.
You're gonna go that high.
I could tell you were like stunned in silence. You were like,
no, I sort of half expected that, but I don't agree with you, but sure.
No, I adore this movie. I think it knows exactly what it wants to be. It comes out and it does it. Like, I have very few complaints with this movie.
Yeah, like I said earlier, the place where I think it's at odds with itself is like a script level versus a visual level. Like, I think
that keeps it from Legend.
Yeah, well, for me that keeps it from superhero. Like, I can't go all the way down to supervillain. Because I think it is a little better than that. Well, I could see why a person would. It's not a great script, certainly. Mm-hmm. It's also better than it probably has any right to be, too. I mean, like I said, I'm kind of surprised by the flashes of sophistication in characterization and stuff in an overall, like, really schlocky movie. And those things, by the way, also don't feel token. It doesn't feel like we're... And it doesn't feel emotionally manipulative either, like, in any way, which is kind of surprising.
No, absolutely.
And refreshing. But I say refreshing for more things made more recently than back then.
No, I wish, like, I would take a million of these over one Shang-Chi or Black Widow or, like, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, this movie, somebody wanted to make it. It has an artistic look. Sure, the script isn't great, but I will take not great script in a movie that overall looks really good and is a lot of fun over something that's generic and nobody wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And paint by numbers.
Yeah, like, this feels like an assignment in the best way possible. Mm-hmm. You know, where, again, she takes the job and then goes, now I'm going to put my everything into this. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to make it what it is on the page. And I just, like, I really respect that.
Yeah, it's just, I'm going to make a Punisher movie. And as a Punisher fan, I highly appreciate that. And like I said, even if I wasn't a Punisher fan, I would still really appreciate that just on principle.
Yeah. But I do feel like an almost palpable frustration maybe from her that's the script she's having to try to turn into this. And that's where it gets a little bit awkward for me. And I don't love the ending. That last scene is really rough to me. But yeah, so I'm just gonna go with a straight hero. So I'm middle of the road with this one.
At least you didn't go lower, because then I'd have to get my applesauce back.
All right. Well, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed having a co-host for the last few of these. I'm just kidding. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the commentary, and we'll see you again soon for another one. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit later than usual because I'm going to be on vacation through part of July. But we're going to come back next with the 1980s B-movie classic, Masters of the Universe, which was requested by David Crabtree on the $30 tier.
Hoping you were going to say Master of Disguise.
No, that's not a superhero movie, and I've never seen that.
It's wonderful.
I don't plan on watching that. Angel Castaneda wants to know where we rank the Punisher movies between 89, 04, and 08.
08, 04, 89, I guess.
In 89, I haven't seen in too long, but I remember being really surprised by it. That like it was better than it had any right. And like my whole life, I had heard people making fun of Lundgren and talking about that movie like it was the 1990 Captain America. It's definitely a couple steps above that.
Mm-hmm. Like I said earlier, like I think Punisher is maybe the best adapted comic book character of all time because I don't dislike any of his adaptations. I think they're all pretty sweet.
Yes, AMC.
89 has been so long, I don't remember it super well.
Yes, AMC, I'm aware that Ray Stevenson voiced him in Superhero Squad.
That's so funny.
Yeah. No, it's pretty great they did that. Mm. They had a lot of really great choices with that. And Austin, I've been wanting to do a mini marathon on that show with you at some point because there's some really fun stuff in that, particularly in the second season.
Yeah, I've never seen it. If we do, I definitely want to see the Punisher episode. I want to see him translate into that. That'd
and you got to see the Man Thing episode.
Oh, I didn't know Man Thing was in it. I definitely have to see the Man Thing.
Yeah,
episode.
they do a whole section in that where they wind up in different areas of the Marvel universe based on like smaller stuff you wouldn't expect them to adapt. And there's like a whole Werewolf by Night episode, and I think that's where Man Thing is. And yeah, it's cool.
Am I gonna cry that I get like actual Man Thing in Superhero Squad?
Probably so.
I get
probably. I mean, I think he still vocalizes a little bit, but other than that, he's absolutely like Man Thing. But
and I'm more okay with that in like a kids thing. Like that's more like a whatever. It's a little show made for children.
Yeah,
I can't complain about it with that.
But like, that show's got George Takei as Galactus, which is just wonderful.
What a weird choice.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You got to see it. It's and then they've got a Silver Surfer that does like a Brodu surfer accent.
Oh yeah, you've told me about that before. That's pretty good. See, when you get stuff like that, I can't be mad that they gave Man Thing vocalized lines like I can be with the MCU.
Thor says things like "It doth be go time." It's pretty.
Let's pretty go
wonderful. Yeah, it's really great. Anyway, so Master of the Universe for next time, and look forward to that. We get to watch Courtney Cox and
Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, I guess Dolph Lundgren is the main character. I never think of him. I always think of the supporting characters in that.
Frank Langella,
who's great. He's legitimately great.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've never seen it.
You've never seen it, yeah. Mm-hmm. But no, I was going to say it's Courtney Cox and Tom Paris from Star Trek Voyager.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
I'll have to make you watch like one Voyager episode.
You need to say smart things like Dolph Lundgren.
Anyway, once again, thanks a lot for being here, guys. And I want to especially thank our Patreon producers. And if you'd like to become a Rewind producer, you can go to patreon.com/geekvolution. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Something just crashed upstairs. I hope everything is okay up there.
LBJ.
Don't say that. That's terrifying. I don't even have any applesauce.
He's shooting dolls.
Okay, I'm going to go through this very quickly and then go upstairs and see what's going on. I don't hear any kids crying or anything yet. But yeah, so if you would like to become a Superhero Rewind producers and get on the Rewind Discord and hang out with me once a month and help us choose things for review, among other things, you can become a producer at the $10 tier. And one of the perks you get there is I will read your name at with gusto at the end of every Superhero Rewind commentary, and I'm going to do that right now. So thanks to all of our patrons, but especially David Crabtree, One Reply, Bill Mills, Chewbacca's Lover, Elliot Slater, Goofster123, Hayden Spring, Ian Nixick, Joe Turner, Joe Gira, Joshua Gilisano, Matt Bat68, Michael Martin, SS Jerry, Super Billy, Thomas Edgehill, Adam March, Checkers the Inventor, Damon Begay, Hot Soup, Jacob Schneider, Jonathan Campbell, Justin Hayes, Kareem Roberts, Matthew Brody, Michael Austin Gulick, Miguel Rodriguez, The Day Ghost. You're still on here. Unknown Passenger, Wendell Jones, and Zach. Thank you guys so much.
That guy with his no last name.
Yeah, I know. I need to flip that around again and start at the end and work my way up next time so that I can end with somebody with a last name.
Exactly. Get out of here. You're not Madonna.
We'll see you later, folks. I was Captain Logan, and this was Austin, The Day Ghost.
Yeah, see ya, everybody.
Bye, folks.